What's up, Taiwan? I'm Joyce with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's representative to APEC, Ling Xingyi, has met with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Peru. The two met on the sidelines of the summit in Lima, discussing how to continue strengthening the Taiwan-U.S. partnership at all levels. They also spoke about regional stability and development. Direct exchanges between the U.S. and Taiwan are rare, as the two countries do not share official ties due to pressure from China. Earlier at the APEC summit, Chinese representatives pressured host country Peru to take down a sign promoting Taiwan. Beijing considers the country as part of its own territory. A new port in central Peru is set to transform trade between China and South America, but the lead-up to its inauguration has left locals out of pocket. Hughes reports from Peru.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has inaugurated this new megaport in central Peru that Beijing says will transform trade across South America.
我们正在见证的不仅仅是共建“一带一路”倡议在秘鲁的生根开花，也是一条新时代亚拉陆海新通道的诞生。
The $3.6 billion project began in 2019 on Peru's central coast, just 75 kilometers from Lima in this small fishing community called Chancay. Preparations for the inauguration have brought the community to a standstill.
El capitán nos ha dicho que no, que el paseo no va hoy día. ¿Por qué? Porque tiene que cerrar, porque le van a inaugurar para la parte de atrás de Cosco Chipi.
Lo que pasa es que la molestia de todos nosotros es que nos han prohibido 5 días para no salir a trabajar. O sea, no pueden salir a trabajar los pescadores por la inauguración, supuestamente por la seguridad.
La gente son del día a día, son pescadores independientes y esos deben hablar antes de formar ese como dice 5 días que no están permitiendo salir a pescar.
She inaugurated the port during his visit to Peru for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, where more projects between the two countries are expected, helping propel China's aims to be a new trade leader in South America. Scott Huang, Reese Ayers, and Hughes in Chancay, Peru for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus as we bring you more coverage from APEC. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has announced new picks for his cabinet, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Health Secretary. Kennedy had run for president before dropping out of the race in August and endorsing Trump. He's widely known for his anti-vaccine position. Former Georgia Representative Doug Collins has been picked to lead the Department of Veterans Affairs. Collins served in the U.S. House from 2013 to 2021. He currently serves as a chaplain in the U.S. Air Force Reserves. Trump also announced he is tapping ex-software executive turned North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum to head the Department of the Interior. For more on what U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's appointments could mean for Taiwan, Alec McDonald spoke to Kuibo Huang, a professor of diplomacy at National Zhenzi University.
With Marco Rubio appointed as the U.S. Secretary of State now, what could we expect for future diplomatic relations between the United States and Taiwan?
The Secretary of State of the United States is one of the main roles in conducting U.S. foreign policy towards foreign countries. So I think that would be a good sign if Rubio, as the Secretary of State, is going to exercise a lot of policy choices to help Taiwan either defend itself or to support Taiwan economically. I think that would be a good sign, as I said. But as I said, Rubio is just one of the main roles in playing U.S. foreign policies. So my hunch is that at least at the beginning, President Donald Trump's personal perceptions and will matter most. So I think we'll see. You know, we cannot be that optimistic, but we shouldn't be pessimistic either.
In previous tit-for-tat sanctions between the U.S. and China, China has sanctioned several of the so-called U.S.-China hawks. This currently includes Marco Rubio, so he can't travel to China in his capacity as Secretary of State, and thus any high-level negotiations would have to take place in the U.S. or a neutral third country. Could this have any effect on Taiwan?
Blinken visited Beijing twice in 2023 and 2024 respectively, while Wang Yi only visited the US once. They also met quite a few times outside the US and the mainland China. So my point is, places do not matter. The issues to be discussed or to be communicated matter most. Therefore, whether or not Taiwan will be discussed, of course, Taiwan remains one of the most important issues between Washington and Beijing. But when will Taiwan be talked about? I think any minute. So we don't have to care too much about whether they can meet or where they are going to meet, but what they are talking about in regard to the issue of Taiwan.
There has been some concern that the 21st century trade deal's second part may not successfully go through under Donald Trump's proposed economic plans. Do you believe that there is risk of it falling through, or that at the end of the day, this will still pass?
I'm afraid that the second part of the 21st century trade initiative between the US and Taiwan will not be fulfilled before the end of the Biden administration, because only like 2 months left, the upcoming U.S. trade representative might not feel, interested in negotiating with Taiwan about the second half of this trade initiative. So I am very pessimistic about the future of the U.S.-Taiwan trade deal for the 21st century. And also, I think it's very important for Taiwan to keep U.S. on the same page, that not only Taiwan would like to cooperate with Taiwan on many, many dimensions already mentioned in the trade deal, but also Taiwan needs some market access and tariff reduction from the U.S. so that the facilitation between U.S.-Taiwan bilateral trade can be further implemented.
That was Kuibo Huang, professor of diplomacy at National Tseng University. In Amsterdam and Paris, violent riots have broken out as Israeli football fans attending regional games were attacked on the streets. Tiffany Wong has more.
Football fans in Paris thanked the police after a UEFA Nations League match between the French and Israeli teams ends safely, despite brewing tensions in the city. 4,000 police were on duty inside and outside the 80,000 capacity stadium over fears of attacks on Israeli fans. Only a fifth of the venue is filled, with 16,000 people showing up to support their teams.
Bien sûr, non, mais la peur au sein de la communauté juive, elle est compréhensible par les faits, par les actes antisémites. Mais si on commence déjà à baisser les bras, baisser la tête, ne pas aller voir un match de foot parce qu'on a peur, parce qu'on est juif, c'est des vrais signes qui montrent qu'il y a un vrai problème en France. Le problème peut être existant, mais...
Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina!
Ahead of the game in a Paris suburb, hundreds of people marched in a pro-Palestinian rally, this in response to a fundraising gala in the city for the Israeli military. Protesters calling Israel's war against Hamas a genocide for killing over 40,000 Palestinians in Gaza. Many businesses were damaged in the demonstration. Last week, violence also erupted in Amsterdam, where another Israeli football team played in the Europa League. Video posted on social media shows a group of men, which the video owner claimed were Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, running in the street chasing people down after the football match. Other videos showed Maccabi fans chanting anti-Arab slurs. Dozens of Israelis who came for the match were injured in clashes in the city. In response, the city banned demonstrations for 3 days, the mayor saying she was ashamed of the attacks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also condemned the attacks, organizing flights to bring Israeli citizens back home. But some Muslims living in Amsterdam said fights around sporting events like these are common.
Ja, ik voel me gewoon, het is gebeurd. Dat gebeurt overal in de voetbalwereld. Dat is niet de eerste keer dat is gebeurd hier in Nederland. Maar alleen met social media, zeg maar, tv, dan maakt heel iets groots van smaak van olifant van.
Others said the riots are more about public dissatisfaction with their government's response to the Israel-Hamas war.
Dus tegen Joden is daar absoluut niks aan de hand. Alleen het probleem is wel tegen het Zionisme en dat Nederland nog steeds staat achter waar Israël nu mee bezig is. Ja, dat is gewoon voor ons onacceptabel.
But as the war in the Middle East rages on, it will continue to affect communities abroad, too, as people take sides and choose whom to support on and off the pitch. Andy Xue and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Supreme Court has declined to rule on an infamous toxic exposure case that affected thousands of workers in the 90s, sending the case back to the High Court for further investigation.
工人求偿有期限，工人求偿有期限，资本杀人无限期，资本杀人无限期。
他的理由就是时效可能不够清楚，用白话讲就是你这个案件的请求会不会太慢？这件事情不够清楚，要花为2审继续查清楚。
Former workers of Radio Corporation of America, or RCA, have been fighting for compensation for years, launching waves of lawsuits that got a 2019 ruling that awarded over $70 million to over 1,000 plaintiffs, a record sum in Taiwan's legal history. But thousands more survivors and affected families of those who've died from the toxins are still waiting for their results, growing angry at how long the courts have stalled.
还是在帮二职的 RCA 公司毒害受害者的健康权，更漠视受害者的生命权。我们都已经7老80了，健康被摧残，生命备受威胁。
The exact death toll and cancer patient count is unclear, but data from labor officials shows that at least 286 women workers developed breast cancer from the exposure. NASA and Taiwanese researchers have released the findings of a joint air quality survey they conducted at the start of the year. The results reveal which parts of Taiwan have polluted air and why pollution lingers there. John Van Trieste reports.
We're back in smog season, when air pollution becomes a more apparent problem, especially in the industrial cities of Taiwan's south. But thanks to a research project conducted at the start of the year, scientists have a clearer picture of where this pollution comes from and why it tends to linger, a possible starting point for future environmental policies. This was an international effort, a collaboration between NASA and Taiwanese institutions. As part of a bigger Asian air quality survey, NASA aircraft crisscrossed Taiwan in February and March, analyzing pollution at different altitudes. Among the takeaways, in some kinds of weather, when contrary winds blow, polluted air can get stuck, blown first one direction, then another, in an endless loop.
这个不同风向造成的就是一个涡旋，涡旋的结果就是这些污染物散不出去，没有办法扩散。
But polluted air can still rise quite high. In some cases, air quality 200 to 500 meters up can be even worse than on the ground. Much of this pollution has been traced back to the petrochemical industry. Some scholars are already thinking about the origins of this pollution and the need to keep them in check.
这些高活性的东西是我们最在意的。然后你会看到浓度那么高所以当然这是我们下手的对象，毫无疑问。所以源头的管理还要精准化。
And there's optimism the project's findings will lead to policy changes that will make the air better.
未来这些的资料都可以对应到的产业别，甚至未来都有机会甚至到哪一个特定的工业区，可能是哪一根的特殊的烟囱所排放的，都可以一清二楚。
Taiwanese academics involved in the project are also pleased with the success of Taiwan-made measuring equipment used in surveying. And they say with the project's results starting to come in, they'll be able to make more accurate models, getting a better idea of what pollutants are a problem and where they're coming from. The approach of winter means smog even in places far from the worst of the pollution, places like Taipei. With their new data in hand, though, academics and policymakers can address this bad air, helping the country breathe easier. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, check out this immersive exhibition in London for fashion lovers on the history of the catwalk. I'm Joyce. Take care and see you next time.